All right, let's get go ahead and get going here.
Yeah, let's get going here.
All right, welcome back, guys.
Hello, welcome.
Good to see everybody, and everybody at home. We can see you too.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I just wanted to talk quickly about Game Awards. It was a few days ago. What do you guys think of the winners? Oh no, I want to hit up the first topic. The biggest controversial thing. Did you guys see the breakdown of minutes between, like how much time altogether the winners actually got for their like award speeches versus?
It was so insulting.
It was rough. I mean, apparently he did post that, like, I guess Jeff had asked them to, like, not do it at 30 seconds or something like that. They asked to, like, be lenient with it, but,
Jeff had thrown everyone else under the bus, but but it ultimately was his show. I mean, he's the one that put that first into effect, and I mean, he already only gives like 20% of the actual winner's stage time to begin with.
Yeah,
because he just goes through that quick cluster of awards, and then when they actually go up to give a speech, like fucking Christopher Judge, who ruined it for everybody.
I know,
because he can't shut the fuck up. He talked more than the actual winner for best performance this year.
He gave out 7 extra Steam Decks last year. Okay, 7.
That is true.
Look, I think they're just trying. I think they're just trying to avoid another Bill Clinton kid situation.
Well, they had security for that though.
Yeah,
this time, like you can see all the security guards up on stage.
Was he in the crowd?
Bill Clinton kid?
Yeah. Do you know if he came back?
Yeah, he was sitting. Probably not. No,
that would have been like a super.
I hardly doubt he's back.
That would have been a super power move if they would have invited him back.
It's just one of those things. Jeff's on stage talking, and he just like appears immediately, like dead center aisle, just looking at Jeff.
It's good. Yeah, that kid. He came. What did he say? He after at the end he said like, "Thank you for my
I'm something Orthodox Rabbi Bill Clinton."
Yeah. That's what
recently converted Orthodox Rabbi Bill Clinton.
Yeah. Just random kid trying to go viral. It's just really stupid, and it was memorable, obviously, and then it happened again. I think at Summer Games Fest, and
someone rushed the stage or something. I think.
To me. Yeah, and he said something even stupider. It wasn't even worth remembering, but yeah, it was just a really stupid thing. And again, I mean, the security things I get, and creating some kind of limit on when people talk. Because you don't want another Chris Judge situation, but at the same time, these people are finally getting their time in the spotlight. And they worked so hard, and this whole past year has just been full of layoffs and studios closing and all this shit. And just gave them a nice moment to go up there and accept their award, and especially for the ones who were speaking with translators and stuff, they couldn't even talk. You have fucking
translate faster. You have to translate faster.
The Zelda team up there, and they barely get any time to talk. When they accepted their award.
It happened at the opening with Sam Lake when he got on stage. I mean, he's not a native English speaker, and
you're already handicapped out the gate with that.
To Jeff's credit, this show feels like it's constantly a work in progress. Like they're always finding some way to get a little better and or improve in some way from year to year. So hopefully next year they'll have their shit together. I mean, hopefully they'll be able to let more than everyone get to accept the rewards. Except who gives a shit about the esports? Whoops.
I mean, I'm glad they just didn't have those included in the show completely.
But the big ones, like the indie, even best indie game, they didn't give it. I think it was debut. I think indie debut they gave some time for Cocoon, but they didn't give anything for Sea of Stars.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that the indie game was it the one that won the award that isn't really an indie game that was made by a big developer?
That's Dave the Diver. I think that's supposed to be that one where it's Nexon was the one that backed it.
Sea of Stars was actually the only one that was a true indie game in that category. So I don't know if it winning was more or less just a statement on that. I really think it was the best game nominated in that category. So I think it's deserved. But I do think that, it being the only true a true indie game without a publisher really did give it a leg up among the competition, and I think it was kind of to send a message as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Indeed.
Sure.
But overall, I'm very happy with, like, I'd say the games that actually won everything.
The winners were, they were good.
Well
there was
chosen.
nothing really wrong. Well, except for there's one, which that was Cyberpunk winning best ongoing game.
Should have been Final Fantasy, hands down.
You can't just.
What were the nominations for that?
It was Final Fantasy 14, Cyberpunk, No Man's Sky, Genshin, and Destiny. I think.
Genshin.
I think it was Destiny.
It was Genshin, Fortnite, Final Fantasy 14, Cyberpunk, and Apex.
I don't have any like strong feelings about any of those games. I've never played any of them, but again, Cyberpunk was just a broken game they fixed. It wasn't it's not an ongoing game.
Haven't they like just been making like good faith effort after good faith effort to like try to improve it?
They did. They absolutely did.
Like, it still doesn't make it an ongoing game though.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Because then
it doesn't.
Say anything that's been patched is an ongoing game now, and it just doesn't fit the
minor update.
Half-Life 1. Half-Life 1 is an ongoing game. That should have won.
I don't know. I guess like think of it this way: like the best ongoing game category, every single one of those is an online centric game.
That's a good point.
Cyberpunk is the only one that is that isn't like any of those.
Not.
They really should have created like its own category if they really wanted to honor Cyberpunk. Just create like a best expansion category, so Fans of Liberty could have just won that.
I mean, I guess the big problem with that is that like there might not be DLC every year though.
There's usually a good amount. There's at least enough. I mean, there's not usually adaptations every year, and they still have the best adaptation category.
That's fair.
You know, like I think they definitely could make room for that to give, so you're not having things like this happening. Otherwise, I'd say all the awards went to good games. I know a lot of people are upset that Spider-Man didn't win anything, and I really like that game a lot, but I don't think it deserved to win any of the categories it was nominated for.
Again, it was a very good game amongst Titans.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said last time, it was an 8 out of 10 among several 10 out of 10s, and it was, if it was released any other year, probably would have won a few awards, maybe even Game of the Year. But I think as it is, it just shows how good of a year it was. And the variety of the winners. Definitely after watching that show, I really, really want to play Alan Wake 2 now because it looks weird as shit.
Dude, you have no idea. I watched the video probably like 6 times today while I was working. I just had it playing in the background because I love it so much.
I'm just like, if this is even slightly what the game is like, it's probably super cool. So definitely one of my high priorities. Once I finish the games we're going to talk about for the rest of this discussion. What other thoughts do you guys have?
What's the Jordan Peele and Kojima collaboration? Is that a game, a movie? What are they?
It's a movement.
No one knows. It's FMV. It's an FMV.
It's coming out on the Sega CD.
It's a YouTube short. They're coming out the podcast to rival us.
It's a new media experience. Like
I was making
obviously
a joke.
It looks like it might be like kind of PT-esque. So that's pretty cool.
That's what I got the impression of. There was something that I saw. This is on Polygon, so okay, whatever. But basically, what happened was. Let's see where it is. Here it is. Okay. Jordan Peele teaser new Kojima Jordan Peele teaser new collaboration at the Game Awards, offering a spooky and strange peek at Kojima Productions' return to horror. And while OD is an original project for Kojima Productions, it also includes a very well hidden Easter egg to a past project. Kojima's attempt to make a new Silent Hill game while he was at Konami. It says
it was the door Jordan came through, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Hold on, let me read here. An eagle-eyed member of the Silent Hill subreddit. It's always someone on Reddit. Discovered hidden text in the OD teaser. Spotted the letters ATAMI, each letter for just a single frame in the mouth of the actor Udo Kier, so the guy. Phonetic panagram. Long story short, Atami is a city in the Shizuoka prefecture of Japan. The kanji that make up Shizuoka's name, taken separately, translate to, and then there's these two characters. It says Silent Hill. So I thought that was very interesting.
Neat. I mean, the dude, regardless of how you feel about all his games, and I've got feelings on Death Stranding, but he does what he does, and very few game makers out there are willing to actually do that, and you got to respect it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I was actually really impressed with the facial animations for that trailer.
Oh, it looked great.
Yeah, it's like we're like almost there with getting out of the uncanny valley.
Oh yeah.
It's like if I just had like a glancing pass at this female character here, I probably would be like, oh yeah, hey, that's a person. It's like it's getting.
I think
scary.
I did realize
it's scary real now.
What trailer? What game?
For OD.
An OD.
For the Kojima one.
Oh, there was a trailer that was played?
Yeah.
Oh,
not really a trailer. It was like a teaser. You just like saw some people's faces and they were saying some weird shit.
And they have some weird eyeballs.
Can you pull it up? Let's see.
Yeah. Let me.
I don't think
I did.
We can watch this.
Make a joke about it. I was like, "This is, he's doing this for Microsoft. He's got a blank check. He's basically going to cash this in and not do anything. Basically, like not even make like an actual game, and he's going to use that to fund his next Sony project."
For Microsoft,
right?
The cucks of the industry.
And this is where we get content ID'd.
All right, you guys ready to watch this?
Yeah.
Yeah, play it.
Yeah. All right.
The hungry purple dinosaur ate the kind zingy fox, the jabbering crab, and the mad whale, and started bending and quacking.
Is there supposed to be an echo?
The hungry purple dinosaur ate
Yes.
the kind zingy fox, the jabbering crab, and the mad whale, and started bending and quacking.
What the heck? I totally missed this.
Purple dinosaurs ate the kind zingy fox, the jabbering crab, and the mad whale, and started bending and quacking.
God, so good.
You can see like a reflection in her eyes.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
Yeah.
I completely missed this trailer. Oh.
It was like one of the only kind of neat trailers during the whole fucking show.
Yeah.
Yeah. What so this is
It was
only
a generic looking sci-fi shooter. That'd be cool.
I saw like there was a great meme of like what was it, Fallout, the TV show, getting its own little spot in the in the friggin' Game Awards, and you just see Todd Howard just sitting there. He's like, my game hasn't won. My game didn't win. Me. Mom. It's just like he looked so pissed off. Like,
looks so bitter to be there. It's just like,
yeah,
my game got one nomination and it's definitely not going to win. And
Well,
nobody likes it.
God, I don't know if any of you guys watch Bakey Jakey. He's a YouTuber.
I watched that video.
Yeah,
that was a great video.
He's getting like people are going after him now because he dared to talk about how broken Starfield is.
It's a broken mess.
it's just not a good game. Like regardless of how much they fix it, it's just there's nothing to it. I don't want this to be the hate again Starfield podcast, but it's just not a good game.
We have bigger fish to fry here.
This game literally has me concerned for the Elder Scrolls 6 because the Elder Scrolls 6 is going to use the same exact game engine, and if this is the narrative way that they're going to be making these games from now on, I'm sorry. The Elder Scrolls series has been something that's been very near and dear to my heart for a very long time. I know a lot of people share that sentiment as well. But if this game has any inclination to what's to come, I'm scared.
Yeah, it's definitely very just out. Like Nakey Jakey said, just outdated game design. They just don't know like how to make it, how to translate their previous successes into today's landscape with all that's changed and everything. They're just too stuck in their previous triumphs to actually evolve. So hopefully I'm wrong. I'd love
to see the game get better.
Elder Scrolls to be good.
Yeah. And that.
Yeah. I really do think Bethesda's been seen as like it's a big studio, but they it was named in that not that trailer, that video. Bethesda's like they're a big studio, but they act like an indie studio still.
Yep.
And it's just like the boat, if it's not broke, don't fix it type thing. It's like hey, this worked with the last game, let's just keep going with it.
Right.
But times have definitely changed, and their story mechanics and the way they've been developing things, it's been letting a lot of people down.
Did you guys see the Starfield, like the customer service people responding to Steam reviews about the game?
Yeah, that was so
Sure
funny.
did.
Oh, that was so sad.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for them.
It's not as bad as you say it is.
You gotta be doing things different. The game's actually fun. Please come back. Please clap.
Please clap, yeah.
Please give us money.
Yeah. It's just like I don't know. They've been using the same game engine for the better part of over a decade now, and they just refuse to. I don't know, kind of like give up the ghost and like try something different. And yes, creating a whole game engine, a new game engine, or forking an existing one it's expensive. But I mean, they have the money. I mean, how many times do you have to re-release the same game and it still sells like hundreds of thousands of fucking copies? Like how many times does Skyrim come out? Money. Seriously, it's like Rockstar. How many times do they like re-release Grand Theft Auto 5?
Only 3.
And
only 3.
Only 3. Yeah, no, yeah, true.
PS3, 4, and 5. Skyrim, on the other hand.
You mean this?
Yeah. So it's like these game studios have literally all of this cash, and I don't know where it's going, but if I was a creative lead, I would definitely siphon a good portion of that off into being able to create a new sandbox to be able to develop my ideas in, because you're only as good as your last game.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
They all can't be the Fox engine used for Metal Gear and UEC, or that soccer game that came out, PES, Pro Evolution Soccer.
Speaking of Metal Gear, before we move on to the main topic of the day, you guys have any final thoughts on the Game Awards?
New Jet Set Radio.
Oh my god.
Dude, that was such a cool announcement. I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
I kind of feel bad for Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, because that game came around like as that homage to it, and it was like really beloved. Everyone really liked it.
Spiritual successor.
Like, no,
you're like,
real
no.
one, baby.
My only fear with that, I hope all of those Sega games are standalone titles and not like part of a collection that they're looking to
Well, 'cause they're making new games, right? It's not just re-releases, right?
No,
I think they only showed off 5 games, I think. And I think it was all like remakes of them.
Oh.
So I don't know if it's going to be a collection or not. I mean, I'd probably be fine with it. I mean, all the games in there are really solid.
I'll probably still buy it, but
because it's Crazy Taxi, Shinobi, Jet Set Radio, Streets of Rage, and I feel like there's a 5th one.
I don't remember. Sure. You guys want to move on to topic of the day?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I think a lot of us, with the collection having come out, have been, playing the old Metal Gear Solid games, a bit. And the series, I think all of us, have history with. Am I right?
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Metal Gear it's a series I have very limited exposure to. So
okay,
I will do my best.
Learn a little.
I will do my best to participate in this.
I'm kind of interested in when we were describing things to you, just to see your reaction. Then, because on paper,
I only played a little bit of Snake Eater. I haven't beaten any of them. I don't really know. Unfortunately, it's like you hang around you hang around a bunch of people that know a lot of stuff about a particular game. Like you start to pick up on certain things, so I know a little bit about it. But if you were to ask me anything deeper than service level stuff, no.
Well, for my there's this thing I have planned for us. If I pick your name, I'll skip you.
Okay.
But when it comes to moving on from here, so I guess obviously to start off, we'll talk about the first game, Metal Gear Solid 1 for the PS1.
Yep.
Released as part of the collection, for sure. The one that it didn't start at all, but it's the one that everyone knows and most people have actually played.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was I put all our names into this cup, and I figure whoever gets drawn has to describe the plot of that game. And I am sorry to whoever gets Metal Gear Solid 2. So hope your name gets called for this one. So let's see here. Okay, this first one is actually Raj.
Dang it. For which one? Which game?
This is for Metal Gear 1. Metal Gear Solid 1.
Okay. What do I remember? For Metal Gear 1. Let's see. So Snake goes in to infiltrate some place somewhere where it's snowy. He fights Arthur Morgan. I mean Ocelot. Dang, I didn't realize how much I didn't really either forgot or didn't understand Metal Gear 1. I'm gonna have to call a friend.
Phone a friend.
Phone a friend.
Oh man, yeah, you're on the right track.
I forgot.
I just didn't play all of it when I replayed it, but he's going in. He's trying to stop Metal Gear, which has been hijacked by a group of terrorists, all with funny code names like Psycho Mantis, and one of them happens to be his long-lost twin brother, and they're both the clones of a famous soldier named Big Boss.
I totally forgot about that.
And along the way, Snake finds out he's also a vector for spreading around this virus that gives people heart attacks. And he kills a few people along the way, including his brother. But it's basically a spy movie in video game form, and it was pretty ahead of its time in a lot of ways, and kind of stuck in its time in other ways, which we'll get to. But from all your memories and stuff with this game, what do we think of Metal Gear Solid 1?
Well, how about you go? We'll go in alphabetical order by last name. So you can go first, Delaney.
Okay. So, to be completely honest, I know you guys know this. My first experience with Metal Gear Solid 1 was not with Metal Gear Solid 1. It was with this game, The Twin Snakes, which is a remake
The
of
GameCube,
the original game. Yeah, for the GameCube. And I think it was probably a lot of people's, first experience with it. It came out in 2004, so I was 14 at the time, which is like the perfect age to get into Metal Gear because you don't really realize like how kind of stupid it is at that time. It's stupid in a great way. I'm not trying to insult it, so yeah, that was my first exposure to it. I really loved it, and it kind of blew my mind. Made me really just deep delve in. At that time, there was only one other game, which obviously we'll get to next. But and then that same year, Snake Eater came out, so 2004 was a big year for me in this series. But because I really liked the game, I'm like, I want to go out and find an old copy of Metal Gear Solid 1, and I only really played that maybe once my whole life up to this point, and then replayed it as part of the collection. And much as I really, really like the story, and I think it's really ahead of its time in a lot of ways, as a game, it is just very rough, and especially compared to Twin Snakes, which used basically the same gameplay as Sons of Liberty, which some people might feel makes it a bit too easy, which is a fair comparison. But personally, I'd rather have a game that's a little easier but playable than one that is hard but effectively broken. By the time I got to the hind fight with Liquid and died like 7 times, I was just like, nope, I'm done. And I'm like, I played original ones so many times from Twin Snakes, so knew how it ended. But I still still really fun to go back in time and to see how it held up, and still respect it. Nothing, no disrespect to it. Something they really evolved as the series went on. But I feel like if you did not grow up playing it, it's really, really hard to go back to.
Mm-hmm. I can agree.
Yeah,
Sure.
I was pretty close then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're close.
The legendary fight with Arthur Morgan.
Yeah. And Dutch.
That was the game where it like read your saves off of your memory card, right?
Yeah.
Well, boss fights.
Wasn't that Metal Gear 2?
Fight.
Oh, that was Metal Gear 1?
That was Psycho Mantis. Yeah, that was obviously pretty mind-blowing when it happened, except for me, because most people know it as him being like, you play Castlevania, don't you? But since it was the GameCube version, he was like, oh, it looks like you like Super Mario Sunshine. It's very weird hearing.
What does he say if you have like a blank memory card? Does he say anything?
He's like, memory's completely clean.
Wasn't it only for Konami games that he?
In the original one. So it was pretty limited for the games, and then in the GameCube one, it was any official Nintendo game. So you would read it for, I think, Super Smash Brothers Melee. I think maybe Luigi's Mansion.
Eternal Darkness, I think a big one that wasn't first party, but they did use that.
This actually wasn't Konami who developed.
Oh, it was Crystal Dynamics. That's right, Crystal Dynamics.
No, Silicon Knights.
Silicon Knights. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So they're the ones that. Okay. So they're the ones that made it, and they also made that game. But yeah, I mean, personally, I replayed Twin Snakes not too long ago. I personally think it holds up really well. I mean, there's a lot of corniness to it that wasn't in the original game. Like the original game is played a little bit more straight, but this one has like a bunch of like really dated like Matrix moves. Like there's a part. You guys remember that?
So I have something because I was rewatching the Twin Snakes like cut scenes before I hopped on here, just because I wanted to remember some of the stupid shit that I remember in that game. And the one that first off, when it's like after you get to the elevator and Snake is doing like the debriefing with Campbell and Naomi, and he's like standing up and he's getting all in Campbell's face and like shoving him, and like they're shoving each other and like bumping into each other. That's number one. But the big one is where after you fight Ocelot and you go to talk to Baker, the Arms Tech president, and you go to ask him like, "Hey, what's the frequency for Merrill's codec?" And he's like, "I'm sorry, I can't remember." And Snake's like, "Ugh." He starts like freaking out, like having like a weird convulsion attack, and he pulls out his gun and he points it right at him. I was like, "What the fuck? It's so stupid."
That
Like,
part was really
I was laughing so hard, but the one thing I will give it. Go ahead, Raj.
No. I mean, just along those lines, I'm gonna ask: was it in this game or in Metal Gear 2 where you have this weird, awkward, deep talk with the operator?
That was 2.
Was that like?
Yeah,
was that
2.
with
I
Raiden?
need scissors 61.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that for sure.
Okay. Never mind.
But yeah, Twin Snakes. Like,
or you say you're gonna give it, Danny? You say you're gonna give it some credit.
Yeah, so at least one scene in particular, like everyone, like the Cyber Ninja scene with Gray Fox. It was awesome. Really awesome to watch that happen. Though I feel that it turned from like sort of like a horror element from like the first game where you just enter the hallway and you just see dead bodies everywhere, blood on the walls, you hear screaming and gunfire, and you don't know what the hell's going on until you get to the room. So I think it kind of like changed its sort of like tone with that, but it still worked in this regard.
Total difference.
Yeah. So that was my big thing. The game is a little too easy, like really easy, just because of the way.
I don't think one of the harder difficulties, though. I think it balances it out, and again, I mean, you could say the same thing about Sons of Liberty as well, because I mean that game is significantly easier than honestly any other game in the series. It is.
I can kind of agree with that, but at the same time, when you take like when you basically take the entire layout and the AI patterns and everything from the first game and you lift it into this new engine, but you keep the mechanics of 2, it makes it kind of removes a lot of like the difficult aspects, like the boss fight with Ocelot, for example.
Like how you can't aim your weapon, and the fact that you can't like easily readily, I don't know.
Versus constantly running around and like basically like cat and mouse chasing each other like Tom and Jerry. Where in Twin Snakes, you're basically you can aim through the wires, and
that's true.
It's a little it's easier, but. It's one of those games where it's like, this introduced a whole generation of players to Metal Gear, and it's supposed to be like a companion piece almost, and not like, it wasn't supposed to be for, hardcore OG fans. So I have no problem with it, but I prefer the original just because of it is old. It is dated and old and impossible to play sometimes, but there's a lot of, I like the groundedness to it in terms of like the characters and their relationships with each other and just the way characters act and move. I think is
definitely a lot more, down to earth than the later games in the series for sure. And I mean, again, there's a lot to like about it. And again, not to completely, should I give it credit where credit's due? A lot of the, graphics at the time, were pretty good, with one very obvious exception, and that being the facial models. Like, oh my god, like just each person's face just has like no eyes. They just have like this like weird like
it's a line,
whole, like weird like. I guess there's a line, but I mean. You could like just look at other games from that era, like Final Fantasy VII, and these games don't look good, but at least their characters have eyes.
Fantasy VIII,
like for sure. But yeah, and then there's like certain aspects of it that I mean, maybe I probably noticed back when I played it the first time, but were really just apparent now. Is just like the constant just backtracking, when you not realize that you need to just constantly be going back to the second floor of the first building to get a new weapon every time you get a new card.
Especially in the second half of the game, it relies way more on backtracking than the first half, which is like super, tight.
What made me really give up, because I remembered the key card section where you have to keep going back to change the temperature of the card.
Yeah.
I'm just like, listen, I know this is, an older game. They don't have as many, as much room to like put in different levels and everything. But for what's there, I think the different environments and everything are pretty varied. It's pretty impressive. Yeah, how they basically took just military base, but were able to really change it up in terms of like the environments. Like there's like the section where there's the wolves, which is really annoying and terrible, but at least it's different. There's the really cool section with Psycho Mantis, and the way it's like that section's really cool, and the Twin Snakes, yeah. And it's still a really great game. There's a lot of I think it's like one of the first games to really try to like be cinematic. Like before then, games had really could have really good stories, like some of the Final Fantasy games. Yeah, it really did try to push that, and obviously he would continue to do that in in future games. But I mean, I said, if personally, if you want to experience it for the first time and you're okay with the dated gameplay, try the original Metal Gear Solid. If that's frustrating for you, maybe seek out a copy of the Twin Snakes for probably $300.
Emulator.
Not that there's any, but what, Danny?
This is a Christian podcast.
Yeah, and the story is pretty bonkers with some of the places it goes. It's definitely the least bonkers of the entire series, and there's at least some elements of real life. There's clones and guy with psychic powers, and a sniper who that is constantly having her tits just hang out in the cold weather.
To be fair, that's in every single one of his games.
That is 100%.
The man knows what he likes. All right.
Hey, Raj, you clean up good.
Raj, you changed.
Yes, I'm back. I'm back. I had to go to the bathroom, do my face a little bit. That's fine.
All right. Well, you look great.
Yeah, it looks good on you.
Thank you. A bathroom can really change a person,
Yeah.
Oh, I know. And a person can really change the bathroom.
One bowel movement and everything changes,
I feel transported.
All it takes is one good bowel movement. That's correct.
Do you guys have any final thoughts on MGS1?
Yeah, I got one thing was.
Oh, hi, Amy.
Oh, hello.
What's up, Amy?
It's.
I like your whatever shirt you were wearing.
The thing that I enjoyed quite a bit about going back to it was, I'll just make this really quick. My first experience with Metal Gear Solid was MGS2, and then I played the Twin Snakes version, and then eventually, at some point in time, I actually got to play the original one, and it's probably been like 15 years since then that I've been able to sit down and actually just play the original one in the Master Collection Part 1. And the thing that I like about it is it really makes you appreciate how games have advanced. Like, Jesus, some of the movements are my favorite thing that I really enjoy. And there's a video, I gotta find it so I can share with you guys. But like the controller layout on the PlayStation, I guess I know, yeah, you can change it in the Master Collection, but instead of pressing X and hitting the circle, that was messing me up most of the game because I'm so used to pressing X as like the action button or whatever.
Yeah.
That was really annoying, and but it made me appreciate what things were. So I went right into MGS2. I'm like, all right, it's only a couple of years later, but we're good. All right, let's hit that circle button. Oh. No, it's X.
That's a very common thing with Japanese Japanese games, where circle is the OK button and X is like the back or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're,
Is that why the Switch is the A button is the OK?
Yep.
Probably, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's that's just like how their games were over there. So when you get like a lot of ports or something that came to the United States, they just maintain the same button layout.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was a lot of actually PS1 games that were like that for a while. It wasn't just MGS, but
Final
they kept it
Fantasy
going.
was,
The original versions of even MGS2 and 3 use the circle, layout, and so that was what I think Blake was saying, is the fact that they keep it so it's circle for Metal Gear Solid 1, but then they switch it for 2 and 3, so it's just really jarring. It's such a just poorly thought out collection.
I think
just make it consistent across the board.
I think they did. They started to do that.
Did they want to keep it like authentic?
I doubt it. I think, Konami just did this because either A, they want to gauge interest to remake the other ones, and B, they wanted to make some money.
Mm.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm pretty sure they updated the, like in the HD collections for 2 and 3, I think is when they reverted the controls to make everything kind of
like
this
is
X
just
and circle.
a rip of that.
Those ports.
I mean, they could have just, again, made it consistent and switch the buttons for
or
Metal Gear Solid 1.
Or have all the buttons customizable however you want them, like a lot of games do these days. But again,
crazy.
That's way too much effort.
Yeah, for modern day Konami.
Oh, they're like really into mobile games, aren't they?
Pachinko machines.
Pachinko machines, yeah.
Like I'll never forget when I saw the like people were showing off like this poster, like a video for like what looked like a very, very big remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, and it was for the fucking Pachinko machine. And everyone was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" But now they're remaking it, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Sure.
So yeah.
But anyway, Metal Gear Solid 1, good for the time, hasn't aged well in all areas, and still kickstarted the cinematic gaming movement that would become big as time moves on.
For sure.
Yep. Absolutely.
That leads us into the most beloved game in the series, or the most hated game in the series, depending on who you talk to. Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. So, let's see who the lucky fella is between me, Blake, and Danny. I'm not going to put that on you, Joe.
No, put it on Joe.
No, go ahead. If it's me, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh my god, it's actually Blake though. So
okay, yeah. So with Metal Gear Solid 2, it was my first one into the Metal Gear Solid series. The whole backlash with like who the hell's this silver-haired dude named Raiden, who's very androgynous and all of that sort of stuff. I didn't care, so I didn't have that attachment to Solid Snake, and so I didn't really care about it. I was like, this is a really cool game. And the thing that I really liked about the game was, so I told you guys this before, but for podcast purposes, I was over at a friend's house. Back when I was like, I don't know, like this is probably like 2002, so I was like 12 or 13 years old, which, like Joe said earlier, it is the perfect age to get into that video game series. But I only got to play the tanker mission, so I never got to, and I got to play a little bit of the plant one as well, but not too much actually. And so years go by, yada yada, and then I was able to play it. Raj and Joe and I were, Joe Delaney, we were all at a GameStop, and I don't know, it was like 2 and 3 were on sale. They're like, you need to get it. So I called my mom when I was like, can you please come up with some of my money so I can buy this game?
I need money,
please.
Hey,
yeah, that was the other thing. Yeah, that was the other thing.
So Blake did have a beard at age 13.
Yeah.
No, he absolutely did.
Not as much gray, but
he had the goatee at least.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, yes, I probably did, or at least a bad version of one.
You were an early bloomer for the beard, my guy.
I was, yes. But yeah, it's I think it's a fantastic story. It's a little far fetched in some areas, like with Revolver Ocelot and Liquid's arm. Like that's even to this day, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, come on, Kojima.
I like almost forgot about it, like on the replay of it, and like once like he was walking along the catwalk, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot about the arm. It's the stupidest, most amazing thing, to happen in a video game. And I won't lie, I do low key resent MGS4 for the fact that they kind of not like retcon that, but like kind of get rid of that, so it makes it kind of irrelevant. But I'm just like, wow, what a stupid and just out there plot point. I think it's really that point in the series where you realize that this is hello. And what do you think of Metal Gear Solid 2?
He heard Ocelot, so he had to come over and.
Heard Ocelot.
Nice.
I remember, playing this game for the first time, and again, I obviously played MGS1, and again, I was unaware of the whole backlash too about it being Raiden and instead of Snake, but the game doesn't. The story, at least in the message it's portraying, doesn't work if they don't have that switch. If you don't have that moment where like, oh, I'm not playing as this guy anymore. Like, who the fuck is this twink? Why am I playing as this guy? Why is he exactly the opposite of the guy I've liked up to this point? And that's again the whole point of the story, which we can get into, and how this game just explores themes that I don't know how Kojima so accurately predicted the internet and just our society as it is currently. And each year, I think the last time I played this game was like 2017. I played it with my then girlfriend, now wife, for the first time, and it seemed super like prophetic then. And just 6 years later, even more has changed in terms of like AI and just go ahead, Blake.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. You mentioned the AI thing. So, so I'm currently playing this game. I just got into Arsenal Gear, and it's when Campbell is going a little crazy, and they discover that he's an AI. It's like, how does someone back at that time, like the game came out in late 2001, so you feel like development started. Well, we all know it started like shortly after MGS1 was finished, but yeah, just to think about like how much like you could use AI in that sort of sense. I guess probably from like sci-fi movies, Kojima was partially inspired by that, but still to have,
compared to those, like there's just so much about it that's just so eerily true about the way it came up, like the way AI basically can't really create, it can only mimic and copy. And that's essentially the whole plot of the game, is like the AI essentially wants to make people into AI. They want to control everything, and they see, well, this Solid Snake guy, he's pretty cool. What if we made other soldiers like him? It's also almost like the way, like they take, again, this guy who's nothing like Snake, like on paper, to try to make him into that, and it just doesn't work because Raiden is his own person in the end, and chooses to overcome that. But yeah, like that, and of course, obviously, when it comes to the Patriots, and for those who haven't played the game, obviously go out and play it. How is that possible? But where their whole plot is essentially them being afraid of the internet and what it's going to be like in a few years. And in a way, the Patriots are kind of right about the way the internet became, and that's the really prophetic part of this game.
as a kid, or, even in like playing it later, like as like a late teen, I still didn't comprehend exactly what was going on. Now I do, and just how utterly spot on he was, Kojima was about that stuff. And the I remember also the just how this is we're not going to get into conspiracy theories. I just want to say one thing of like how the Patriots control all things. I'm like, wait, what if there is something that does that?
A lot of people do think that. I mean,
yeah.
Basically the Illuminati in a lot of ways, as far as what they do and the things they control. Just not as lizardy. But that game is just like twist after twist. Not every twist lands. Like some of them are just kind of like pointless. Like frankly, there's really no reason for Solidus to be one of the big boss clones. Like it doesn't really pay off in any way.
Yeah.
Like his connection to Raiden,
it does later on.
What, in 4?
Yeah.
It's been so long since I played 4. I don't even remember. But I mean, I don't know. There could have been
other
ways that could have. Yeah. But like that doesn't work. But I mean, just everything from. I mean, once you're in Arsenal, like that game just like goes from pretty still pretty cool and everything, but that's when it really gets good and
makes you think.
Crazy for sure. When the Colonel starts calling and just every weird thing, and it's genuinely unsettling. Like you really do, like, especially when you're 14 years old playing this game. Like I was actually creeped out. You're telling
me to turn off my game console.
That's what freaked me out the most.
Yeah.
I almost did it. I was like, oh my god.
I almost did it too.
Listen to what he says. But up to that point in the game, I mean, just to get into some critical points, just as a game, it plays just infinitely better, obviously, than 1. The glow up graphically too is just insane. Like think about this. The difference between God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok was 4 years. The difference between Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 was 3 years. And just like the way, like, just the way the actual generations used to work in like how, the graphics leaps were is just insane. Because I mean, we're playing an HD upgrade of it, but overall it still holds up very well for a game that was released in 2001. But like my one main gripe with the game is the level design, specifically in the big shell. It's just orangish, brownish, buildings, just all hexagonal, just one after the other, like not too much variety in each one of them. And just this whole time, like somehow less level variety than the first game. And it's not too bad. I mean, overall, obviously the game plays a lot better. But like I said, once you get into Arsenal and things just start getting really trippy, and like it like starts becoming like even the ground is like all like digital and everything, because reality itself is breaking down around you. That's where the creativity like really starts flowing when it comes to that game. And just that whole final act is just so memorable and so bonkers. But it has really good. It's a really good, message about, the way, people need to maintain their individuality, in the face of a society that basically wants, everyone, to fit into a specific slot. And it's funny because it's, my wife pointed this out to me because she's a really big, anime fan, is how the message is both somehow very Japanese, but also very American at the same time, because in Japan, a lot of it's a great culture and everything, but there are aspects of it that can be a little suffocating. Like they're all kind of expected to behave the same. Like the culture is the most important thing for them. But if you see a lot of like Japanese media, like a lot of video games like Metal Gear Solid 2 and the Persona series, like so much of those games are trying to like all these people who are like suppressing who they truly are and and what they feel, and they're not truly able to come to terms, to self-actualize until they reveal who they truly are. And so I think that's really interesting, just how much this game is just kind of a microcosm of these two very different cultures, but just kind of just a very human feeling at the center of it, and it makes it very effective, and it makes you kind of emotional, like the end of the game. It's corny and everything with some of the endless speeches that would put Christopher Judge to shame, but
that's just Kojima, though.
it takes that's true. That is him, and that's obviously it's a feature, not a bug. But I do truly still love this one a lot. It's probably I don't think it's the best in the series, but I think it's the ballsiest one. I don't know if there's a game ever released that was this much of a risk. Like they took this game that was super popular and just really like swung for the fences in terms of what they were trying to say and the risks they took. It's just you don't see that anymore. Outside of again Kojima, probably you don't see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think with something like that, it's I mean, you can. I'm not gonna be that person and say like his games that he creates and stuff like that. Or like works of art or anything like that, but it is absolutely in the artistic area, obviously, because you're creating things. And I think, certain game series like Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, to an extent Final Fantasy, but not as much in what I'm trying to say right here. You if you're involved in anything artistic oriented, you gotta you have to write and create for yourself, in order for you. It has to be true to what you want, not to what like, oh, here's what here we think that if we do this, the fans are going to like it or something like that, because of whatever survey we took, or oh well the numbers are predicted, stuff like that, which is I think that's like very common in other forms of media today, especially film. Like I was telling you guys at one point, like I'm done with any superhero related thing. I'm done with Avengers, Marvel stuff, DC, all that sort of stuff, so when you have a guy like Kojima coming out with most of the time really fresh stuff, because it breaks those barriers so often, it's just really important to create for yourself rather than for someone else. And I think that's possibly, maybe highly speculating, a big reason why he clashed so much with the people at Konami.
Yeah, there are aspects of this game itself where I think that maybe it was like the studio people at Konami basically being represented in the game, because you could even say that like the Patriots themselves are like corporate expectations, because again they were just like, okay, well Solid Snake, he fought this guy in this spot, so maybe Raiden should do that too. And that worked really well the first time. He gave someone a heart attack, so maybe Raiden should do that too. That's that's how you create success. They just look at what's already happened, and they think that should just be replicated over and over and over again. That, like you said, like it kills artistic expression. And I think that's what this game is all about. Actually, in the end, it's about expression, not just on artistic level, like people making games or making movies or music or whatever, but just like who we are as people. And I think it's a really powerful, resonant message that's only gotten more so today. So yeah, I totally agree with what you said.
Yep. Well, yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think in terms of like gameplay, and to kind of counter what you said about the level design, I feel that it's like the tightest of the series, just because it's very enclosed and it's almost claustrophobic, and because it looks so similar, like you constantly feel like you're just running in circles and losing your mind from a gameplay sense, I guess. And maybe that's how Kojima wanted to feel. But like the way the AIs are all like stationed and how just the amount of detail and I don't know, just the amount of God, I'm just thinking about the game.
I was like, no, I know exactly what you're saying. I agree to some extent. Like, I think the level design itself is good.
But I get what you say about them being
don't,
repetitive and kind of
I just don't
boring.
like the color scheme and just the way it's.
Yeah, it's a little. It's not as varied as the original one, or even 3 or 4.
Even like the tanker mission itself, obviously was a little bit more, visually inventive, and
maybe that's kind of.
I mean, again.
Yeah, maybe that's kind of what Kojima was going for, with the AIs want everything to be a certain thing, and this whole the whole shell was supposed to be kind of like a, it's very symmetrical feeling, like everything's like a hexagon, like struts and hexagon, and everything's kind of like, kind of like how, to jump forward a little bit, how the mother base looks in Metal Gear Solid 5, like everything's like, these giant octagons, and they got the struts and everything else. So, and maybe I'm not going to get too much into 5 because that's a whole other thing for another episode, but
explore it later.
But I just think that the way the AI is handled and how they're all just everything just works really well in that game. It's very tight, and it's not bloated like a lot. Unfortunately, his later games got just a little bit. The bosses are all exceptional.
I will disagree with one thing. The final Metal Gear Ray fight is a slog, man.
I can agree with that. Yeah, just fighting 12 of them or something.
Oh my god! Even on normal mode, it's like you have to fight 6 of them, and they take such minimal damage. Like each stinger blast, they only have 3 moves each, so you're just constantly
flip, aim, fire, flip, aim, fire.
Yeah. Exactly. It's
but
so repetitive.
Fat Man was fun.
Fat Man's fun.
The whole thing with Fortune was fun. Vamp was great. The final battle with Solidus on top of
Federal Hall.
Federal Hall. Just everything's collapsed and broken is. Just it nailed a lot. That game nailed a lot, especially in terms just gameplay, and then its themes and story, because that's a big thing with Kojima. Is he's all about his theming in all of his games. The first, in Metal Gear Solid 1, his one word theme would be gene, and how your genes affect who you are, how you walk your life, and it's the genome soldiers, Solid Snake, Liquid Snake, every blah blah blah. And then this one, I think it was meme. It was the first time people used the word meme that wasn't something, silly and, whatever. It's, I think how you were saying, I can't remember the exact definition, but it's just one of those things where how you as an individual carry on your, your values and your personality and your individuality and put that out in the world. I can't remember the exact, what, the definition is or whatever. So I'm talking out of my ass kind of, but that's kind of what I got from it.
What a podcast is, talking out your ass. But
pretty much.
No, it's a great game. I just a couple last points to make. Another thing I don't think gets a lot of talk about the series, and especially with the next game we're going to talk about, very very relevant is the music. The theme song of Metal Gear Solid 2 is one of my favorite pieces of music from any video game. It is just so stirring, so emotional, and just really just again captures the essence of what the game is all about. You can feel the themes of the game when you hear that song, and I think it was one of the first times where I was like, holy shit! Video game music can be movie music. This is insane.
Yeah, obviously Harry Gregson Williams. Yeah, his scores are all
actual Hollywood composer. For sure.
Absolutely wonderful. I agree with you 100% that I constantly hear that theme. I can just hear it in my head constantly without even trying.
Oh, it's perfect.
So yeah. You said you had a couple other points.
Any last thoughts on 2? Oh, go ahead. I really just wanted to gush about the music.
Okay.
But that's really about it, honestly.
No, I think 2 is the kind of one of the tighter entries in the series in terms of just kind of everything really. It's its story, while being a little crazy at the end. Like, it's one of those things where, like, as you said, Blake and Joe, as you got older, it kind of, everything started to make more sense, and now you kind of start to see how it, like, he kind of in a way predicted the kind of society that we live in right now and everything. So I don't know, I have a very big soft spot in my heart for 2.
Yeah, me too. Yep.
So definitely one of the greats. Not even just Metal Gear, but just one of the best games, like, ever, all time.
Yeah.
Sure. So to lead into our final game, talk about Metal Gear Solid 3, The Snake Eater. So let's see who's the lucky person who gets to talk about the plot of this one.
Fraser.
It's Danny. I promise. I promise my name was in there.
That's fine. That's okay. All right. So we're going to kind of have a little continuing trend here. So Joe started off with Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes. Blake started off with Metal Gear Solid 2. The first big entry I had into the series, I had played a little bit of them, but my big one was Metal Gear Solid 3.
Nice.
That's a good starting point, actually. If you're not going to start with the first one, it's actually a good starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, because my best friend's older brother is a Metal Gear junkie, and so I've seen him play most of them, and I saw him play through, like, European Extreme on Metal Gear Solid 2 because he's insane. I saw him play 3, and then we rented 3 and played it. But in any case, the plot summary. After the end of World War II, the world was split into 2, East and West, in the era known as the Cold War. So the game kicks. So the game kicks off, and you play as Jack, who becomes designated as Naked Snake. You are to infiltrate this facility where there's a scientist named Sokolov who's developing this weapon that can be used to fire missiles and nuclear weaponry from a long distance. So he's sent in to drop in, get the guy, figure out what he can about the plane, get out. Well, he does that, and it turns out that his mentor, known as the Boss, is there with her squad, the Cobra Squad, if I'm not mistaken, all freaks of nature. And she's there with a colonel named Volgan, who's got electric powers, and she's got nuclear warheads, and she beats the shit out of Naked Snake and dumps him in a river, and they blow up the facility. And so after all that happens and Snake lives, he has to go basically and kill the Boss and destroy the Shagohod for his country.
Which is just Metal Gear before Metal Gear.
Exactly. Yep. Absolutely. So this game, I think it is the overall best experience in terms of a Metal Gear game. I think it's got one of the easier stories, like more engaging stories that you can understand. It's not super convoluted. It's got it looks amazing. It plays amazing. It's got a lot of just options for how you can proceed with your mission. Basically, the boss fights are incredible, including the end, which I'll touch base on just a little later. But so not to start off on one of my gripes with the game, but I think that's where the series started to go into, like, it started to get a little too bloated in terms of some of the mechanics that it was adding. For instance, all the survival mechanics, a lot of menu hopping, and a lot of time spent in menus. I've just constantly, be it healing yourself or applying camouflage or whatever.
Yeah, the camo system was hit or miss. I mean, I kind of liked it in some extent, and like finding funny camos that you weren't really required. But yeah, it is kind of like, it kind of takes you out of it too. I mean, not that the game's super realistic, but this one's trying to be a little bit more. So it's like what is Snake just removing his camouflage while he's laying in the grass, to go from the splitter camo to the woodland camo, it just doesn't really make sense from that capacity. Like they kind of addressed that in MGS4 with the Octo camo, but that's always been one aspect that's kind of bothered me too. Like you said, it's a lot of menu hopping, going back and forth, and I would say that's probably the game's main weakness overall. But I agree with you. I think personally, I think it's the best game in the series in my opinion. I don't think in terms of like its story it's as ambitious as 3, but it definitely has. I mean it's 2, but it definitely I think. It doesn't bite off as much more than it can chew like 2 does in some capacity, and tells a more concise story. Like this is the only one in the series where like you can just play this game and you get a complete experience. Like it's not incomplete. And I remember when it came out because I just that year I just played through Twin Snakes and I played through 2, and I was so excited about the continuation. And I think a lot of people were probably disappointed that Metal Gear Solid 3 was a prequel and not a sequel because 2 leaves off on a pretty good cliffhanger. And so I'm sure a lot of people were really pissed off at the time that, okay, this actually isn't going to be the resolution to the series, and, we're going to have to wait until the next entry, to get that. But, we were just like with people being annoyed with Raiden, not meeting their expectations and Kojima subverting them. He subverted us in the best way again with 3 because the story is super engaging and emotional. It's probably the only one that like just has created the most manly single tears of all time. Especially with its ending.
It just works.
It just works. Yeah, it is. It's an almost perfect game.
Agreed. It's his James Bond. That's was his take on James Bond. Like even down to the amazing, absolutely wonderful opening song with the imagery even reminds you of like a James Bond movie, like with the snakes intertwining and just that's the song I use when I'm in Phantom Pain as my helicopter song when I take off and land. It's always Snake Eater.
That's a good
every
one.
time.
Snake Eater, the song Snake Eater is not just in my opinion probably the best song, like meaning a song with like lyrics and singing like any video game ever. But it's like obviously inspired after James Bond theme songs. But I think it's literally better than any James Bond theme song. Like I can't think of one that I think is actually better.
There's a couple. There's only a couple. It's not many.
I don't know. I mean, from all the ones I've heard, I think Snake Eater is the best. But
Snake Eater's top.
It's obviously super inspired by it. So,
yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And yeah, that song. And I think again, being a dumb 14-year-old when I first played it, I was like, "This is a dumb song. Like, why is this even playing? It's so corny." And then by the time you get to the end when it's playing again, you hear it, and you're just like, "Oh my god, the boss! Oh my god, like, such a hero!"
Yeah.
And it's wild too because it's one of those games where you just like the more you think about it, the better it gets. There's like a lot of games you break down and you're just like, there's kind of some plot holes here and everything like that, but
it's the most digestible. I would
so
say
much of everything about 3
of the bunch. That's easily the most digestible. It's it doesn't have any like weird crazy like plot threads, really. It's a very simple story with some very crazy events and characters.
Yeah, like there's obviously like a man who shoots bees at you and all this stuff, but somehow it all just feels a little bit more.
And then the crazy, what was it? The fear, the guy who's basically like a contortionist, and he like just can crawl around and jump from trees, but the end is probably one of the coolest boss fights in probably the entire series.
I think it's the best boss fight in the series, personally. Like even more so than Psycho Mantis. Like,
I think I'd probably agree with you, and I think for me, it's not only because there's a bajillion ways you can take him out. You can, actually hide and play cat and mouse, and like use the microphone to find where he is. You can use thermal goggles. You can do you can freaking go into the system settings, fast forward the system's time for however long, and he just dies of old age. Like, that's another brilliant thing about Kojima is that he's always so meta in all of his games. Like, you know,
you can cap him after the first cutscene you see him in if you're quick enough, which I did one time, and I was very amazed by.
I'm gonna try and do that when I start, because I remember
hilarious.
that I forgot about the aging thing.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. I mean, given it's not as, and you can even kill him before that. You can, like, there's that brief moment where they're wheeling him out in the wheelchair on like the ship dock or whatever.
That's what I'm talking
about. Yeah. So like, there's just a lot of different things in this game, and like even like the Sorrow, for instance, like the game, that boss fight is as hard as you make it, depending on how you play the game. Like Kojima's very, like, all of his games are very meta in a lot of different ways, and most of them are for like bosses and dialogue, but like in this particular game itself, like there's just a lot of nice details that just are very memorable and increase the enjoyment and even like the longevity of the game. So
the Sorrow fight is one of the coolest moments, and like one of the neatest, like, and again, obviously there's been a ton of games with like an anti-killing, anti-violence message, but like that just makes it feel so real, to actually be going down that river and every single person you've killed in that game, which my first time playing, there were a lot of fucking people in that river because I did not give a fuck. I was just killing every single person. My favorite thing to do when I was a kid was I would trank a guy, but then I would like go up to them and like shoot them in the head or shoot them in the dick while they're on the ground. And then like as I'm like going down the river, it's just like guys walking toward me and they're like, "You shot my dick."
I think the creepiest one is where if you like hold them up and you slit their throat, like you can just see dudes like just like with their necks wide open, just blood popping out or whatever, just walking towards you and everything like that. That's the worst. That was the war. I could be misremembering, but I seem to remember if you slit a guy's throat, they'll just be like hanging like with their head all weird, and there's just like gape whatever. It was that. Yeah, that was something. All the new character, like the character of the boss. I mean, she's the most important character, I'd say, to the entire franchise, because every single conflict, every single character has some sort of relation or motivation that's driven by the boss. Everyone. She's 100%. Wonderful. The ending is very, very heartbreaking. Just especially not only just from the circumstance, but just because that particular incident, again, just the tragedy of it, just how it like affects all these characters and everything. The game is very special. The final boss with the Shagohod, I remember being just super crazy with the just riding on the motorcycle. Like, just that whole ending is just a wild ride. Like car chases, battles against tanks, sneaking through the forest, then the boss, and just it's such a lovely, lovely game. It's the overall best experience for sure. I'd say it's the whole package.
Yeah, it's the one with the fewest flaws, like in the whole series. Like, and I personally think the highest highs, like that, the ending with the boss and realizing all she did, and basically sacrificed, and only a few select people know what she did, for her country, and not just for her country, but for basically the world.
The world.
Like her gravestone says, soldier who saved the world, and how her, basically being forced into that sort of, villain role and, doing that willingly just, shaped Big Boss's mentality and like turned him into, the famous terrorist, he would become. And it's just such good, character writing, not, from her for Big Boss and everything like that. And obviously, the one character who appears across every Metal Gear game, Ocelot, making his first chronological appearance here, which I you had the chance to like I just started playing 3 again in the collection. When I never missed the chance to create the time paradox where you kill him.
Another meta moment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I could be wrong when you do that because then a voice comes on and I think it's Colonel Campbell, who says
It sounds like that, or it sounds like Zero. Like I don't know.
I think it's.
Maybe.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that's interesting. I've heard a lot of people say that their theories are that Snake Eater is not like a true recreation, or it's not like the true story like of Big Boss, or it's the true story, but it's like Solid Snake doing like a VR simulation of the Virtuous mission and Operation Snake Eater, and I've never known if that was too much ground to that theory, but a lot of people say that's because Snake has Big Boss has a different voice than he does later on in the series. I know he's older, but it's like completely different. And
fun fact, it's the voice of Solidus. That voice, the perfect clone of Big Boss is who voices Big Boss in.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, so I guess that in at least in that capacity does, because he's the one who ends up looking the most like him.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought that was kind of interesting. Not to say that's obviously a true theory or anything, but these are the kind of games that inspire that kind of.
One of the many theories, and I think it gets even crazier when it comes to the 5th game, because holy shit, I've got some rabbit holes and tinfoil hat theories that I've read about and looked up, and my God, it'll be fun to talk about it when we get to that point.
I'm gonna try to finally finish 5 before we have that next discussion, because that's the only game in the series I never finished because it just got too sprawling, too many side ops, everything like that.
To be honest, I think that it might be best if we did like maybe 4, maybe in Peace Walker together, because I know Peace Walker isn't as long of a game as the other ones, and 4 is pretty damn long. There's probably a lot we could talk about.
I've never even played Peace Walker either. So
neither have I. It's on my list. It's actually. But 5, I think, because you got Ground Zeroes and then Phantom Pain, I think there's a lot that we could probably. It could probably be its own video almost, maybe, depending. But yeah, sure. In terms of 3, easily one of the greatest games ever made. It's again, bloat aside. I also have it also feels like it might be. I think it's a little easier. I think than some of the other games, just because there's more places for you to hide, and because everything's so open, you can. It's a little easier to hide. I feel in that game compared to say 2.
Also, and I don't know if this has ever been said. Do the guards move like a lot slower in 3 than they do in the other games? Because they're always just like. Oh.
I think it's possible, but one thing I will say is that compared to 2, because how the alarm system works in 2, you basically, if you get spotted by someone, they run off, and then they have to call it in before the system, you go onto alert, unless you get caught by a camera or something where you're immediately in the alert stage. In 3, it's basically immediate.
I noticed that.
It's just you're done. It was like that in the first game too, where if you were just spotted, which that could have been just a limitation back then. But I thought the way they handled it in 2 was very genius, because it gave you time to, okay, if there's one guard that sees you, if you take that guard out, he can't sound the alarm and you're fine. It was, and I love that.
I think in 3 though, if you even if it goes into alert stage, if you immediately, shoot the guard that saw you, I think it immediately goes back down. But I could be wrong, and I just started playing it again. I haven't even gotten past the Virtuous Mission section yet. But yeah, I definitely, I think I know exactly what you're talking about, and I would say the way they handle it in 2 was pretty ideal. And again, it's been literally 13, 14 years since I played 4, so I couldn't tell you, how that game handled things, and we'll come back to it eventually. But
it's been a long time. Because that was the game that actually got me to get a PlayStation 3. It came out when we all graduated. And my graduation gift for my dad was, here's money for a PlayStation 3. And it was the same day that Metal Gear was coming out. So I'm like, best day ever. So I got that, and I remember taking it over to my best friend's and playing with his brother because, again, he was the Metal Gear junkie. And then I remember I had to go to work the next day, and so I left the PS3 over at their house. I'm like, just go ahead and play it. I'm not going to take that away, whatever.
Oh, that was nice of you.
I was working, didn't have anything to do, but I remember going back there, and I think they were already like done with the game, or I think his brother was, which that's just how he rolls. Like he just he took a month off to play Metal Gear Solid 5.
Whoa. Took a month.
Wow.
He was a waiter, so he just probably just saved up a bunch of money. He's like, peace.
Was it during the pandemic?
No, it was 2015. So it was definitely not.
Did it.
Yep, he just did it.
Nice.
But yeah,
That's amazing.
When did MGS5 come out?
2015.
September 1st, 2015, and the only reason I remember that date so clearly is because my grandmother passed away that same day.
Oh.
Yeah, so, that's it.
Sorry.
It's
Nice
fine. It's fine.
topic.
I brought it up.
Anyway, I gotta go, guys.
So, but yeah, so of course I worked at midnight for it because no one else was gonna have fun with it like I was. Like I spent like hours like on a dry erase board freaking making it look exactly like the box art, even with like the Phantom Pain intertwined with the Metal Gear Solid title.
Nice.
Oh, you had to do that?
I didn't have to. I did it because I wanted to.
Okay. I thought, okay.
And it's the one, just like with you, if, obviously the really rough gameplay of one, or the hardness of finding a copy of Twin Snakes is difficult. It's a good one to start with, because it's the first chronologically in the series. There are some things you might appreciate more if you play, the first two first, but you can always obviously play those later and, come back to it and find those references. But I think it's a really good, just, perfect example of, what makes the series special. And again, I think has the highlights of the series when it comes to emotional payoffs and character development. And I guess I couldn't agree more. It is the total package of the series.
Yeah, it's quite good. He did a good job with that one, Kojima.
Kojima.
He's just, I think he's also one of the true, there's probably a lot of CEOs or creative directors and things like that who may not have the developing chops that Kojima does, but he programs and develops and codes a lot of the stuff that he does, and so and he helps implement the mechanics and everything, and just so many mechanics and throughout all of his games are just stuff that's carried over for throughout the years. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, I think with Kojima, a big difference with him as well is that, I feel like in order to be in the gaming industry, you have to have, at any level, you have to have a little bit of creativity in your head. But he's definitely one that's extremely hands-on, and he's not a suit, that represents more or less, a board of investors or whatever, stuff like that. What's the bottom line? What's the number going to be at?
Unfortunately, that's gotten him in a lot of trouble too. We can get into that with 5, which I think, that could probably be its own video itself. Just the stuff that happened behind the scenes with Phantom Pain and everything. But
was that a game by Hideo Kojima? I didn't know.
I think his name might have popped up in maybe every single of the 200 missions that you had to do in that game. Maybe. I could be wrong.
So long since I played
box.
5.
But well, having spent most of my time with it over the past few weeks, it's I didn't do a lot of the. I've been doing the side ops, which you don't have to have the. It doesn't usually have the those disclaimers and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
when I had to do the quiet mission like 9 times, and I did the final 2 main ops missions, yes, it does say that. And then the one where it's like, out of nowhere starring the parasite unit. It's like, well, fuck you. God, that made me shit my pants when I first saw that. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
But
what do you guys think of everyone, including Fraser, because he hasn't said a word in about a half hour?
I wasn't joking when I said I don't know anything about Metal Gear. So
now you know everything about these games.
Yeah, you know everything now. Yeah, enjoy it. No, but I maybe because it's getting a little late. What do you guys think of the Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater remake that's coming up?
I was just about to bring that up too.
Go for it, Joe.
So I don't know, like obviously like the first reveal was pretty cool and gave me chills because you hear the Snake Eater theme and you see this updated version. Am I wrong? Did they say they're using like the original like audio tracks from the game, like for the voices and everything? Is that
I believe I did read that. Yes.
Yeah. It's the original audio tracks, and then basically it's going to get a fresh coat of paint from the graphical side of things, and I mean, I would assume that they're going to clean up things. One thing that I really, really hope that they do is take out the bloom that they have in MGS3. That is probably the thing that I really, really don't like it. Like even though it's been probably like 12 years since I've played the game, and I mean I'm going to be probably starting.
In the original version or the HD remake?
Yeah, the original.
The
original.
So we talked about the original voice track. That's my other problem with the Twin Snakes, and I totally didn't bring it up like I should have. They re-recorded every line of dialogue in the game compared to the original, and they whitewashed the cast. Because if you notice, Mei Ling, Naomi Hunter, and Natasha Rome, what's her last name? Natasha, the weapons expert, Romano?
I can't remember. But
either they don't have, they're all just, they sound just generic Caucasian.
Which made it...
Yeah.
Which is the inflections
Mei Ling especially. Yeah, that was really annoying. I did kind of like the fact that they got a different voice actor for Gray Fox, because it was kind of weird that he had the same voice as the DARPA chief. Like, I always found that to be kind of jarring in the original version of the game, because he doesn't really do anything to make him sound all that different. Like, it
really?
Because
I thought the rasp that he had, like, 'cause he always talked like this.
Yeah, but it's still just very obviously him, at least, because he has such a distinct voice, and I was just so used to him being the DARPA chief. So I could see all the people getting confused, like, why is the DARPA chief calling me to warn me about the mines?
Well, I mean, and that's totally fair. I mean, that's the reason I hold that they couldn't have they couldn't have David Hayter for both Snake and Big Boss, and why they've had different voice actors for Big Boss, because it would just confuse the shit out of people. Though, to spin off to the potential movie, which we'll never release, but Oscar Isaac is supposed to play Solid, which perfect choice, by the way. But I don't know if anyone watched Moon Knight, but I have been constantly saying that he's definitely gotten practice in to play Liquid and Solid with Moon Knight, because he had to play 2 different versions of kind of like their 2 different personalities based on the same character.
I totally forgot the fact that that him being Snake means he would also have to be Liquid as well. So I'm interested to see what he looks like in a blonde wig. So that'll be fun to see.
I mean, to be fair, they could just dye his hair, because I mean, in Solid and Liquid, like Solid has the mullet, and what's Liquid's is just comb back or whatever. So I mean, it could probably almost work, just dye it
for sure.
Plus, I think that could be really cool, but the movie's probably never going to get made.
More than likely.
But, yeah. Anyway.
All right. Awesome. Well, I'll see y'all later, and catch you next time.
Deuces,
y'all. Love you.
Bye.